First off, welcome everybody to the Contextual Christian Church Bible Study. Today we will be starting in 1 Samuel chapter 11 and verse 4. Again, that is 1 Samuel chapter 11 and verse 4. And in the midst, after we're done praying, you'll get a moment where you can go ahead and get to it if you have another Bible you want to use, so you're able to follow along. Now, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and pray us in, and then Charles will start with the summary from yesterday. Everybody bow your heads. Father, thank you for this time that you've given us, for the ability to read your word. I don't know why, but I feel like I need to pray for something specific, God, and I ask that today be a new start for us. I don't know if there's a sin that we're struggling with for some of us on here, or if it's a new understanding that we need, or a new mentality, or what have you. But I pray for today to be a beginning of beginnings. And as we go to read your word, that we're able to be closer to you, and that we're able to be better examples unto others. Not just saying the lifestyle we want to live, but actually being consistent from here on out, and not just working towards it, but actually achieving it in a timely manner. In your son's holy and precious name, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, amen.
Amen. All right. So you guys had read 1 Samuel chapters 10, verse 17, all the way to the end of the chapter. So from 17 to 27? In those verses. Well, let's talk about that first before we get into 1 Samuel chapter 11. So starting off, we had Samuel gathering the children of Israel to Mizpeh. There we go. Gathering them, telling the children of Israel. Now, God had brought you out
that would be mitzvah.
Mitzpah.
It'd be mitzvah if it had the EE in the phonetic, but because it's MITS.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't even. The one time I don't go to the phonetic. I need to wake up. But Mitzpah, Samuel the priest gathered the children of Israel to Mitzpah, and he's telling the children of Israel, well, the Lord had brought you out of Egypt, saved you from slavery from Egypt. He did all these great things for you, but yet you still want a king. You don't want God to rule over you with me advising, me being the priest and all that. No. You want a king, even though God did all these things. And God's probably going to do more things for you. I'm just adding this, but he's going to do more things for you later on down the line. But God did all these things for you, yet you still want a king, right? Fine. You want your king? Look.
One his piece of correction, Charles. Don't add something we don't have context for, even if it might be true. Remember, we
also don't bring up that side note.
Because here's the thing. We don't know what the future holds. And if you get in the habit of adding something, you might add something that sounds good, and now somebody believes it. And then what if they're not able to be on Bible study later, and we find out that this happens to be the section where God completely disowns his people? Like in Hosea. In Hosea, they literally get to the point where God disowns them. And at that point, if you were to say that same statement, we haven't read, well, God's still going to do things for you. No. At that point, it was done. So you never want to add something of potential, only what we have and can prove. Otherwise, we can end up, because like I said, somebody could be on when you talk about the potential, and then they miss the next few Bible studies. And that
they miss it if it ever happened. Or if it
doesn't happen. So that whole time they think, oh, well, everything went well for Israel. And turns out they got taken over and 50,000 got killed type thing. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like,
so I'm gonna take that point away. I'll take that point away. But he did talk to the children of Israel to let them know that, hey, God did all these things for you, but yet you want another king, right? So you want another king? Look, that tall, handsome man, the most handsome of all of Israel, Saul. Saul's the one, Keisha's son. There he is.
Pause.
No. I said Paul, then Saul, because I almost said I was going to say it the other way. Okay, I have to say Paul, then Saul to say it right.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
There's Saul, tall and handsome, most handsome in Israel, right? He's into stuff. I had to say it like that. He said the stuff over there. There he is. And the children of Israel like, let the king live. There he is right there. And then Samuel's like, okay, cool. There he is. Y'all got him. But everyone go home. Well, we're gonna get into what's gonna happen next. But everyone go home, go to your homes. Saul went to his home and he had a group of men with him, but it brought up something. It brought up something that, was that something separate or was that something you got going on in the
I'm
background?
sorry. I didn't. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay. Yes, Saul is with a group of men, but in verse 26, it brought up that God had touched their heart, the hearts of the men that are with Saul. There's a possibility we'll see that come up again. And there's a group of children, the children of Belial.
Either Belial or Belial.
Belial. That's the one I was thinking of.
And let's
Now
look at the dictionary for it. Yeah. Belial. Yep.
Belial. Yep.
Belial. Yep.
Talking about Saul in the way of, he's the one to save us. We ain't bringing him nothing. Saul was cool about it. He held his peace. Now we get into 1 Samuel chapter 11. We only read the first 3 verses where we have the Ammonites. We have one person named, I think
Ammonite.
it's what Ammonites. We have a man named Nahash. Nahash of the Ammonites. He came up in camp. He came up against Yabesh Gilead. And he's letting the Yabesh Gilead know, okay, cool, we're gonna make a covenant. You're gonna serve me. But you need to take your right eye out. I want that as shame on Israel. Now Yabesh responds, give us 7 days. Give us 7 days. And if we can't find another person to save us, then okay, we're with you now. It is what it is. That was me trying to simplify all of the stuff we talked about.
No, that was good. That was good. And I apologize for the interruption. There was just a Swift truck that had, I think, about 10 truck spaces of space and still ran over an unnecessary curb to run over to get into a spot.
Okay.
He had about 8 spaces, so he had plenty of space, and he still ran over a curve and almost hit a light pole.
Now, me and you are going back and forth with the reading. Do you want me to start reading?
Yeah. We're going to go back and forth, but I'll go ahead and, you know what? Because you didn't get to read yesterday, you start, because that way you'll get the last in case Thomas isn't able to read. That way you have more reading. What, Thomas?
The verse is cut off when you're.
What do you mean?
It's cut off. Only can see. Can't see the verses at the bottom.
Yeah,
like
so half
sideways or something.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. That's better.
What the frick? Okay, so when I turn my phone sideways, it goes with what the phone direction is. That's weird.
It changes the. Oh, that's interesting.
That's not okay, and that is. Thank you for telling me. I did not know that. So my verses are backwards, and they were sideways just now, and now
it
they're
was eating me up, man.
backwards.
I had to say something, bro.
No, I appreciate it, because what about the people who are watching this later? They wouldn't have known what's going on.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so my verses are backwards still on my side. Thankfully, I have my other Bible, but now, so you guys can see the whole verse section now.
Yeah, I see what Thomas is talking about.
His Zoom is so. I appreciate the fact that it exists, but there are definite improvements that need to be made. I can't even stop it from shifting to your guys' video, which takes off my screen. So when I download the videos, when you guys talk, it stops showing the verse on the screen. It shows your screens.
Yeah, you can't pin the screens, which is stupid.
Yeah. Which don't make no sense, because I should be able to pin my screen to where it stays that way no matter who's talking, but I can't do that, I guess. Anyways, so go ahead, Charles, and back to the main focus and verse 4.
Verse 4.
What was that, Thomas?
I can read.
You said what?
I can read if you want me to go first.
All right, you got to speak closer to the mic, though, because you sound a little muffled.
It's about as good as it's going to get, man.
Can you speak closer to the phone?
Never mind. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, that's perfect.
Okay, so go ahead and start reading.
So, Thomas, are you going to be reading?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. But how close you spoke just now, that was perfect. I could hear you just fine. You just got to remember to speak into the mic because you don't have a headset. So the further away you
I do have a headset.
the
That's the case.
Oh, you need a better headset.
I know it's cheap.
But in the meantime, however close you spoke to the microphone, we were able to hear you just fine when you did that. But when
I'm
you let it
practically
hang or
yelling.
whatever,
I'm at Uptown Denver right now. There's something going on, so I have to yell.
okay. All right, so just speak into it. Oh, Dad, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, my text is going in and out. So it'll be full screen and then it goes to nothing and then it comes back. But sometimes it comes back sideways with real small print. I can't read it without my glasses.
That was before when it was sideways. That was before. Now we have it fixed.
But
I
right
guess
now
Zoom
it's going
reacts
in.
to my phone direction.
No, it's going in and out right now, just to let you know.
What do you mean going in and out?
The text is going in and out.
Like it's turning off on you?
Right.
What the heck? Okay, Zoom is having problems. Okay, so in the meantime, Dad, do you have the Bible app?
Yeah, I have the chapter and verses.
Go to the screenshot it while you're on your phone, then click the home button, go to your pictures and go to it there.
Okay. Good
and
idea.
Then every time we go to the next verse, go ahead and screenshot it and then go to your picture, same thing. So you're always up to date with the verses.
Okay.
I don't know why it's doing that. Sorry, I apologize everybody for this. It's okay. All right. Anyways, go ahead, Charles, in verse 4.
Right.
And
Verse.
somebody has background noise. Let me mute you, Dad.
All right, verse 4.
There you go.
Then came the messengers to Gibeah of Saul and told the tidings in the ears of the people. And all the people lifted up their voice and wept. And behold, Saul came after the herd out of the field. And Saul said, what aileth the people that they weep? And they told him the tidings
Aelith, not Eliath.
Aileth the people that they weep. And they told him the tidings of the men of Jabesh. And the Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard the tidings, when he heard those tidings. And his anger was kindled greatly. And he took a yoke of oxen and hewed them in pieces and sent them throughout all the coast of Israel by the hands of messengers, saying, whosoever cometh not forth after Saul and after Samuel, so shall it be done unto his oxen. And the fear of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out with one consent. Excuse me. And when he numbered them in Bezek, the children of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. So the messengers that were sent went to the different coasts of Israel. Well, they went to Gibeah. Gibeah told Saul. Now it's talking about the tidings. I'm glad I had the definition, because I would have mistaken it with what we talked about with tithings, the 10% and all that. The way it's talking
is with the th.
That's why it threw me off. So the tidings, what we're reading right now, this is just the messengers is telling Gibeah, then telling Saul what the men of Yabesh were talking with. Was it Nahash? Nahash. Just what they were talking about, the business that's all they were talking about. I just had to say that because of the way I said it and the way I read it. I'm like, hey, it's throwing me off. But they were just what they were talking about, the business that they had. Saul hears about this. Oh, that's what. Okay, cool. The Spirit of God came into Saul, and he went. Oh, well, he was greatly angered. I need to add that. But after the greatly angered, he went and took. There's a piece that holds the working ox together when they work the field. It's called a yoke. It's this piece that holds them together, and they work in unison on this yoke. He took it, broke it in pieces, or cut it in pieces. Sorry, and let that be the message to the coast of to all the people of Israel through the coast of Israel. He gave that to messengers and said, "This is what's going to happen to your oxen if you don't come either with me, Saul, or if you don't come with Samuel." Which is, I'll bring up that after my explanation. Now the people are like, "Oh no, oh no," and it brought up that and they came out with one consent, as in they came out with one man. Then after that, when they numbered,
one man?
Yes, one man.
No.
So consent doesn't mean man.
One request.
Look at the Strong's definition for it.
The first Strong, contracted for H582. A man as an individual or a male person.
As a
then
what?
Or a male person.
No, the first part.
Contracted for
man as an what?
As an individual.
Individual. What does individual mean?
There's only one.
Exactly. So does it literally mean man, the literal word of man? Look at the context surrounding.
Well, one person came outside.
No. Okay, you're doing what you used to do, and I corrected you on this. I told you to stop reading the dictionary for this reason. Look at the context. Is it being literal? Look at the surrounding words. Is it talking about a single individual? On the people? Did it say one person?
Fell on the people, and they came
so is
out
people
with,
one person or many?
Well, people's many, but there's a comma with
and
that.
Then keep going. And then keep going.
Then and they came out with one consent.
With one consent. So what's the context that they came out with one consent? Does man work in that? They came out with one man. Is they one or is they many?
Well, they would be many.
So does man work? Is man one or is man many?
Well, if I just said man, that's MAN is one. MEN is
exactly. So does man work? You're not looking at the dictionary term in context. This is why I stopped you from reading the dictionary before. Don't go backwards, Charles. It's not being literal, is it?
Let me reread.
It should be a straightforward, obvious answer.
Should,
especially for how long you've been reading.
Yeah, but it isn't. Because the only other possibility that I can think of with coming out with something was they came under one option, the option to go with Samuel and Saul.
Exactly. One consent. What does consent mean? Why would the writers choose the word consent? What does it mean to consent?
To agree. When you're consenting, you're agreeing.
Now, if you're coming out with one mind or one individual or one consent, now look at the definitions of the Strong's definition. A man, and it says, meaning to be, it says, or perhaps rather from the unused root, meaning to be extent. Well, what is an extent? A distance.
I thought we was
or a
ignoring the
range.
parentheses. I thought you told me to ignore the parentheses.
No, I said the parentheses are to help you with understanding the word, but they're not the main word definition. So if we look at as a man, oh no, not as a man as an individual. Well, if I'm saying someone is a man as an individual, what am I saying about that person? I'm saying they think for themselves, their own mind. And then you go into the other portions later on. Also, another, any man, a certain, or champion, consent, each, every, fellow. So as we see, it's not talking about a number as like a man, like literal man. It's talking about man as in like mankind or like a group of men coming together as one. You see that?
Champion, a group, person, yeah. So now
So
it's
it's
bringing
not
up different
saying the
types of.
literal man, but man as an individual. So when it says in verse 7, and they came out with one consent, does the word man work? Is it literally saying they had one man go out for them?
Well, no, the man wouldn't. No, that wouldn't work. But that's the only thing I can get out of this is they all came to one agreement, which was to be under
There you
Saul and to
go.
be under Samuel.
That was the answer. When you said they came out with one man, that doesn't work in the context when you take the surrounding context into account. Now, Thomas, this is a perfect example of what I was trying to tell you. Remember when I told you at the dictionary? The dictionary is supposed to be the second thing you go to, right?
Yeah.
You see now the reason why. Because Charles took the dictionary definition and forgot to take into account the context of the verse, he added something that had nothing to do with what was going on. Remember this. The very first thing you do, Charles, and Dad, same thing, Thomas, same thing. The very first thing you do is see if you can understand what's being said with the context of its verse itself. Then afterwards, you go, if you still can't understand, then you go into the dictionary for the words and you see how they work in with the context. You don't see how they work separately. You don't look at the definition for consent and see the word man. Is that the only word in there, Charles, on the dictionary?
No. They just
So you
use a
took
lot of
the
like single
very
persons.
first, exactly. You took the very first word listed in there and ran with it. You didn't even think about how it connects and how it works with the rest of it. You just ran with it. You didn't think contextually. So again, the process always, and this is a lesson learning for you, Charles, and for Thomas and for everybody, including myself, when you're trying to understand the Bible, the very first thing you get is the context. Who, what, when, where, and why. In other words, what's happening, what's being said. That's the first thing you get. Then if you still don't understand, you look up the definitions. But don't just run with the first word of the definition. See the generic words that are used. What's the generic, what's in sync, what matches? Because it's basically more like using a thesaurus is the dictionary. It's more like a thesaurus. You got a bunch of words that mean the same and a couple that maybe mean opposite, but it's pretty much the same. So you'll be able to tell the general idea of the word, by the words that are described in the dictionary. Then you see if it works in the context. If it doesn't work in the context, then it can't be that. Like, for example, in here, how the word they is used. Then they came with one man. That doesn't make any sense in the context, right? Because they is multiple and one man is one. And you think about the word that the writer used, consent. Consent is agreement. So if you use another word for consent, agreement, and look at the other words in the dictionary for it, with one man, we see consent is in there. Also champion, or of high degree, or steward, worthiness, or mankind, fellow, or coming together. So we're not talking about man literally. We're talking about man as an individual. So they came together as an individual. In other words, they came together with one mind and one accord, one agreement, or in other words, one consent. You see that? So always start with the verse and see what the context shows. Then go to the dictionary and make sure you test the word with that context. If we're talking about multiple people, singular doesn't work. Off the table. What else works in that context? But the dictionary should never come first. Always find the context first, then go to the dictionary if you don't understand a word. All right, Charles?
Yeah, I got you.
And everybody else? All right.
Okay.
And so the only thing I needed to add after that was numbering Bezek. Oh no. And when he numbered them, he was numbering them in Bezek. But when he numbered the children of Israel, there were 300,000, but for the tribe of Judah, 30,000. That's all I had to add for mine.
Yep. Good. Now then, let me go ahead and change the background to the next verse. And in the meantime, Dad, has it been changing since we had that, since I had you do the screenshot?
No,
well, right
not
now, obviously.
just till now. No, there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much stable.
Okay, so I think it's when I'm touching the screen, it does that. So that might be why, because I was touching it.
Okay. Now we're
All
going
right.
verse 9 through 13, right?
Yep.
Okay.
What's up, banana chips?
All right, let me see if Thomas raised his hand to be able to speak. Nope. All right, so I'll give everybody a second in case you want to have your own Bible. We're in verse 9 now. So 1 Samuel chapter 11, verse 9.
Guys,
All right. Huh?
hey, just a heads up, I'm on 3%. I don't have a charger with me. So if I cancel out, if I cut out, you know why.
You're muffled again. What?
Just a heads up, I'm on 3% battery. So if I cut out, you know why.
Oh, what? Put your phone on the charger.
I don't have a charger with me. I'm in a mall right now.
Oh. Got to be more prepared next time, but okay. Sounds good. All right. And they said unto the messengers that came, Thus shall ye say unto the men of Yabesh Gilead, tomorrow, by that time the sun be hot, ye shall have help. And the messengers came and showed it to the men of Yabesh, and they were glad. Therefore the men of Yabesh said, tomorrow we will come out unto you, and ye shall do with us all that seemeth good unto you. And it was so on the morrow that Saul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the host in the morning, of the morning watch, and slew the Ammonites until the heat of the day. And it came to pass that they which remained were scattered, so that 2 of them were not left together. And the people said unto Samuel, who is he that said, shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men that we may put them to death. And Saul said, there shall not a man be put to death this day, for today the Lord hath wrought salvation in Israel. All right. So for this section, we got a couple parts to point out. For one, the messengers went back to Yabesh. They came back. Because remember, they was waiting on a word to see if they'd have a savior. They got a savior. When they came back and they told him, okay, cool. Then tomorrow, do what you think. Okay, do what seems good unto you. Now, I want to give the answer of that, but I got to ask just to be sure. Thomas, if you're still on, do you know what it means? Do what seemeth good to you.
Do what makes you happy.
Close, but not quite. Dad, do what seemeth good to you. What does that mean?
Say that again one more time.
Do what seemeth good to you.
Do what seems good to you.
Yeah, what do you think that means?
I don't know. It sounds like do whatever you want.
Close, but not quite.
Not quite.
But that
okay.
is, but that's closer than Thomas's, but still close, but not quite. Charles?
I thought Thomas had it. I was only going to say do what seems right to you, but I thought Thomas had it.
There you go. How is that different than what Thomas said and what Dad said?
I need to remember now. Because Thomas said do what you feel you should do.
No,
what
that's not what he said. He said do what makes you happy.
Oh, do what makes you happy. So you got do what makes you happy, which that's just telling them, okay, whatever makes you happy, go ahead and do it. Then you got
how is that different? You didn't answer the question.
Well, I was trying to remember everybody's first before I, because when I said
Dad's
do what
was so Thomas's was do what makes you happy, and then Dad's was what did you say, Dad? Oh, do whatever you want. That was Dad's. And then you said do it. Do what you think is right.
Yeah. Sure.
Because what?
Very
okay,
similar,
so what I said about do what you think is right is this isn't anything you want. This isn't something. This might not be something that'll make you happy, but you know this is something that you must do. The right, you must do the right thing in what you see in your eyes, regardless of if it makes you happy or regardless of if you want it to or not. Is that why mine's is different?
Yes. Thomas, do you understand the difference?
Oh, yeah.
And Dad, do you understand the difference?
Yes, I do.
All right. So for those that are listening, besides the ones that are on, because you guys said you understand, I'm going to give an example of each and how they're different. If you're doing what makes you happy, God said that that living a homosexual life is a sin. If you have love for a family member that, or let's say that you yourself have that temptation, if you're doing what makes you happy, you might have a gay marriage. You might be married to somebody. If you're doing what makes you happy. And then on the other token, doing whatever you want. If you're doing whatever you want, you might still be selfless. You might still like to put other people's needs before your own or their desires before your own. And then let's say in that same example, you have a friend who smokes weed or smokes cigarettes. If you're doing whatever you want, you don't want to lose that friendship. You might never speak up about it because you don't want to hurt their feelings. That's an example of doing whatever you want. But if you're doing what you think is right, then there's a certain level of morality involved. It's not just what makes you feel good, which is the happy portion, and it's not just doing whatever you want, which is depending on circumstance. Do what you think is right has a level of morality in the statement. But they're all very similar because they all have the same mindset of you choose what you want to do to me. It's your decision. The only difference is that doing what you think is right comes with limitations, whereas the other two don't. All right.
Okay.
Now then, go ahead. Oh wait, I'm gonna give the other part of the context, verse 12. Oh, somebody got the background noise. There we go. Now then, I'm going to give the other part of the context about verse 12. So in verse 12, and the people said, it came out, who is he that said Saul shall reign over us? That's equivalent. It's the same thing as somebody coming along today, and let's say they could play basketball like Kobe Bryant. And here Charles comes up and plays basketball like Charles does at his level, or Thomas at his level, or Dad at your level. Obviously, it's not going to measure up, isn't it? But before you came up, you was sitting here talking smack to Kobe Bryant, like, bro, you ain't even going to score 5 on me in this game of 11. I'ma dominate you. I ain't worried about you. And then Kobe does what Kobe did, and you get slaughtered 11-0. And then you hear the people in the stands, they're going to be sitting here like, man, who was you that you was sitting there talking smack to Kobe? What? You thought you was going to limit him to 5? You thought you was really going to do something against Kobe? That's how they're talking about this situation and about Saul. Who was sitting here talking about Saul, talking about, oh man, who is he that he's going to reign over us? Why is he going to be king? He ain't nobody. Where are those people now? That's the mentality of the phrasing and what's being said there and how it's going. And then finally, they were saying, bring them out. All the people that said that, and we're going to put them to death. But Saul had an interesting response. His response was, don't put them to death. Because today, God have brought out, or he had brought forth salvation in Israel. Today, God has saved Israel. So we see that Saul still has some focus on God and on his workmanship. We haven't gotten to the point where he's fully selfish. God saved Israel through him today. And so he's not even going to put his dissidents to death. He's letting them go, the people that came against him, when he could just put them to death. All right, now, Charles, I'm about to switch the screen. Actually, before I do, I think, Thomas, you said you're down to 3%. You probably can't read. All right, Dad?
Yeah.
Do you want him to read? Because you unmuted yourself.
No, I just wanted to make sure that the text was the 14 through 16.
Yeah, remember, I got to switch it. I just switched it to the 14. I'll be switching it again once we get past 14.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. You see it on there now, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Every time we go, I switch it over. All right, so Charles, go ahead, and you're going to read verse 14 and 15. And then I'm going to go ahead and switch it over. So pause after. And this is a heads up for everybody. If you're reading and you see the verses are less than 5, we're probably at the end of a chapter. pause so I could switch and so I could switch to the next chapter, because it only takes to the end of it. So I have to switch it to get to the next section for future reference. All right, so go ahead and read 14, 15 and then pause, and then I'll switch it over and then continue.
Verse 14. Then said Samuel to the people, come and let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there. And all the people went to Gilgal. And there they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal. And there they sacrificed sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord. And there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. Uh-oh, what did I do?
There we go.
I'm at the right spot. All right, let me go back to the chat. Okay, you changed it. I'm gonna give it a couple seconds for 1 Samuel chapter 12, verse 1. And Samuel said unto all Israel, behold, I have hearkened unto your voice in all that ye said unto me, and have made a king over you. And now, behold, the king walketh before you, and I am old and gray-headed. And behold, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my childhood unto this day. I'm just seeing if I should keep going. 2, 4, 5, 6. This is a tough one. Technically, I could keep going, but if I keep going, I want to stop here because he's going to get into something else. 3, 4, and 5 are the same. They're in the same boat.
But there is a good place to pause. Keep in mind the 5 W's. The place that has the most changing is where you want to pause before. So where's the most changing? Of the 5 W's, is the who changing?
Out of from verse 1 to 6, it's still Samuel talking to the children of Israel, so that hadn't changed.
And is the what changing?
Well, the conversation changes at 3 and at 6. That's why it's that's the only thing, is just the conversation. Like what's being said to the children of Israel changes. That's the so we who, what, the when hasn't changed. Can I give it the why? Not yet. I can't give it the why yet.
Doesn't change. The why doesn't change.
The where, the why, the when.
There's only 2 parts that change, right?
Well, the what?
Of the what, exactly.
But it changes in 2 spots. That's what's funny about it.
It changes of 2 spots. Now, which one has more of a change? So in verse 3, it changes from who's speaking, but what is also the subject? What's the subject between 3 and 4 versus 5 and 6?
Well, 3, 4, and 5 would be the he's talking about the witness thing. Make me a witness of this, that, and the third.
Of
and then
what?
6. Oh, I'd have to read it to it's a witness of something. I just have to read it to get the further context. And then verse 6 is just talking about, what is it talking about? Now he's getting into Moses and Aaron and them getting out of Israel.
Exactly. So the what and the who both change.
Where'd you get the who
5
change
to
from?
6? Because in 3 to 4, we're still talking about God, Saul, and Samuel, and the children of Israel. Those are the 4 people. And that continues all the way through 5. But then in verse 6, the who of the subject matter changes. Not the people speaking, but who they're talking about. So from 5 to 6, you have not only the what changes, as in who's speaking, because Samuel's talking now again, but you also have who he's talking about changing, because now he brings up Moses.
He does that in 6. I was gonna say, but he in 3, I see him doing it in 3 because we went from the king to now me. Not me, but like him, Samuel. Now he goes to himself.
Well, that's
That's
really
why
a
it's
change when you
interesting.
consider it about it being about their leaders. Samuel's part of the leadership. So if you look at it from that perspective of who their leaders are now, there is a change, but not in 3 to 4, because it's talking about their leaders. But then in 5 to 6, it's talking about past leaders. So we have current leaders from 1
6
to
to 7,
5.
but yeah. You know what?
See what I'm saying?
I'm gonna read 3 and 5. I'm gonna see if it even sounds. Let me see if I can get a difference out of it. I'm gonna read 3 to 5.
Yep,
Verse
not a problem.
3. Behold, here I am, witness against me before the Lord, and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Or whose ass have I taken?
You would love
I'm trying not to. Or
Keep
whom
going.
have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Or of whose hand have I received any bribe to blind my eyes therewith? And I will restore it to you. And they said, Thou hast not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither hast thou taken aught of any man's hand. And he said unto them, The Lord is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, that ye have not found aught in my hand. And they said, and they answered, He is witness.
You see how that has an ending to it?
I saw it earlier, but I was like, it was just tough because I'm like, man, that was 2 was a good spot. Then we continued at 3, then 6 was a good spot. I'm like, man,
Remember,
because
you
Samuel's
can
still
have
talking to
multiple
the
good
people.
spots, but you want to look at what's the best spot. And out of those 6 verses, there is one spot that changes more than other. The end of 5. Because the conversation has a pause point.
Well, I'm about to say at the end of 5, he started with the.
You say, "How's your day going today?" And she says, "Good." Anything else? Here's the thing. No, I wasn't saying that for you. I was saying that like there was the feeling. You're gonna say more? Like when somebody gives a quick response like that, it is an ending. It is a pause point. So now Samuel in verse 6 is gonna have to like restart or continue to force the continuation of the conversation. Because they basically just answered yes, you're right. So that's a legitimate pause point.
I just read I read even further. Okay, so yeah, we're getting into more than just Moses and Aaron. Because I only read 6 and 7. When I scrolled, it gets to Jacob, it gets to the Philistines. Okay, yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was because now we're getting into the past now. Samuel's talking about the past.
That's what I was saying. Before 6, we had the whole thing was talking about the current leadership. So, like I said, the who also changes. From verse 1 to 5, the who doesn't change. Not the who we're talking about, not the who we're communicating. But from 5 to 6, the who does change. Not the who of who's communicating, but the who we're talking about. From verse 1 to 5, we're talking about the current leadership of Israel. Whereas after 5 and verse 6, we're talking about the past leadership. The moment that Moses and Aaron were brought, they already died. So that is a little change in context. Like the leaf of a tree branch.
I was about to say just a different. I looked at it as a different branch.
Yeah.
Like same log, different branch.
I wouldn't even give it a whole branch. I'd say a leaf because it's the same branch. We're talking about the leadership. All right. And for those listening, I described the context of the Bible as a forest because it's all connected. You got the mass forest, which is the whole forest. That's the entire Bible. Then you got the group of trees in different sections. You got the cedars in one section. You got the oaks in another. That's the books of the Bible. They're all connected. Then you go into the chapters. That's each individual tree. Then you go into the sentences. You go into verses of that chapter. That's each individual branch. Then when you go into the specific subjects of each verse, those are the leaves. So everything is connected as one thing, but they have different levels of connection. So I would put the fact that they're talking about the new leadership versus the old leadership, that would be a different leaf on the same branch. Because the overall subject's the same. They're talking about leadership, but it's just a different leaf. All right. So, anyways, now that that's done, you picked 5 to stop. Go ahead with your context. But let me go ahead and switch it back so everybody has on their screen the other chapter.
There's only 2 verses. Do you want me to just bring it? I was only gonna bring it up in a sentence.
I won't be able to see what you're actually giving the context of.
Okay.
All right, I just switched it.
So with 14 and 15, Samuel gathered the children of Israel, the people. So the children of Israel were gathered to Gilgal and that's where they made Saul the king of the children of Israel. They made him king there at Gilgal. And then they did sacrifices, the peace offerings, on all that. And now the children of Israel, oh, hey, we're happy now. We got our king. And then next chapter, 1 Samuel chapter 12, and what I read, okay, cool. Saul's your king. And guess what? Not guess what. I'm old. I'm old, and my sons walk with you. And and let me add this. I just read it. Now, and Samuel's talking to the children of Israel. Did I steal from you? Did I scam you, defraud you? Have I ever held anything against you, oppressed you? Have I took bribes and turned a blind eye? Have I done these things? And the children of Israel responded, no, you didn't. No, you didn't at all. Let the Lord be the witness of what you just said, of this situation. I'm the witness of this situation of what you just said. I'm trying to figure out the lesson that we can gain out of this.
One part you forgot to add. He didn't just say, let the Lord be witness. He was more specific.
Let the Lord be a witness against the children of Israel.
Exactly. Why does that matter the way he phrased it?
Because of them choosing the king over the Lord, not just choosing the king over Samuel, but choosing the king over the Lord, knowing Samuel never did nothing against them, nothing to harm them, to scam them, to steal from them, all of these things, which I could have sworn Samuel said that's what the king is going to do to them.
Yep.
We just read that. Samuel did talk about that. That's what their new king is going to do to them.
He's going to scam them. He's going to take advantage of them. He's going to take their children,
all of those things,
their lands, all forms of selfishness, everything for himself.
Yeah, it just hit me.
So why bring that up? Why would Samuel bring that up when he tells them that he's a witness this day?
Hard to explain this. I'm trying to get a good way to re-explain this.
Use your own personal feelings if you need to and how you would be in a situation. It's a lot easier to explain if you take it from a personal point of view. And it's easier for people to understand if you do so too.
Um,
Don't overthink it.
oh, too late. Damn it.
Well, put yourself in his position. Don't just like you're overthinking it. Don't put yourself in his position. Saying the same thing. Why would you be saying the same thing? What would be the reason behind it?
Well, if I put myself in the same situation, let's say
saying the same
a
words that he
friend,
said it. Why would you be saying that?
I would be saying it in the sense of let this be.
You can use words of today. You don't have to use their phrasing. What does it mean to defraud? Do you know?
Oh, to like scam.
Okay. So use today's words saying that, and this is good for visualization and understanding. Use today's language, how you would say the same concept, and say it out loud if you need to in an example.
Oh, I already brought that example up. Now I got to figure out what you're talking about because I already brought.
Well, no, because I want you to do that to help you focus to see what I'm asking. Do it again verbally out loud.
What, the defrauding and scamming? Have I stole from you? Have I scammed from you? Have I
exactly now
hold
why
things
would you
against
be telling
you?
somebody that in this scenario?
I would be telling somebody that, asking those questions. So why would you choose someone else over me? Why would you go against me?
Exactly.
Because I've never done those things to you.
I never did wrong by you. Why would you want somebody else when I never did wrong by you? That's why he puts in there that this is a witness against you this day. Not just a witness, but against you. That's the reason why.
Because me and the Lord never did anything against you guys.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Put yourself in their shoes, saying a similar thing they're saying in the similar circumstance, and it will help you to understand what their reasoning is. That's when I tell you I have great discernment and understanding people, this is part of how I do it. I think about not just the words they said, but what's the circumstance surrounding it and what could be the reason why they say it with that in mind. If I was in their position and I'm saying the same thing to somebody else, what is that reason? Humans, all of us, humankind are not unique. We think we're different, but we're not. If you keep in context, the surrounding context, and you put yourself in that position, why you would say what you said, you will understand why people do the things they do. And that's going to help you so much in future reference with understanding the Bible. That's what I meant when I taught you from the beginning to put yourself in their shoes. I'm not asking how would you feel. I'm asking what is the reason if you were to speak how they spoke in the situation that they said it, what would be a reason why you would do it? This is exactly what I meant. You see that?
I see it now. So that's what I got to start doing more of.
Yeah, because I know at the time I couldn't like force because you weren't ready and understanding to be able to do it. Now you see it. When I say put yourself in their shoes, I'm not saying imagine how you would feel in the situation. I'm saying what would the feeling be for you to say what they said? What would be the thought process? We're not as unique as we think. Everything mankind has always done is always by the same patterns. If a woman asks a man to come over to her house at midnight, and there's no work to be done. Is her mindset necessarily sexual? No. But is it most likely? Yes.
9 out of 10.
There's 9 out of 10. So if I saw a scripture that said a woman had asked Samuel to come over at the midnight hour, and I said that, and when he had shown up, she had been mad at the fact that he left immediately. Do you need her to say that she wanted to have sex to know why she was mad?
No.
No. And same thing in the opposite. If a man comes over to a woman's house because she asked him to come over at a certain time frame, what is he expecting is going to happen? We know the answer. So if I read about a story the next day that said a woman complains because a man had ghosted her after she had invited him over and they just sat up and talked, do I need anyone to tell me why he ghosted her?
No.
No, I know why. When you look at the patterns of humanity and you look at the reasons and the words that are used and when and how they're used, you can know the motivation and why they're doing. Same thing with the Constitution. Do I need to be around at the time of the signing of the Constitution to understand that the Second Amendment was not about hunting? No, because they had just finished a war where thousands died because a government was oppressing the people. So I know the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. It has to do with defense of two things, yourself and your country, to prevent tyranny. That's the purpose. So when we keep that in mind, the time frame, when they used it, who were they talking to, how did they use it, we can know people's motivations without them ever telling us what it is. And we can also know when they're lying, even if they say they're being honest. Now then, to bring it all back to what we said, this is a witness against them this day. I have never done anything wrong by you. I've never cheated you. I've never scammed you. Yet you still want a king instead of me and God in charge. This is a witness this day. Go ahead and finish your context. Charles.
Let me go back.
Mhm.
Hold on, let me go back. Well, after that, they answered and said, he is a witness. They're just agreeing. Okay, cool. Yeah, we agree.
And what's the lesson you could take from that? For people today,
well,
I mean.
For people today, the lesson I can take out of that, well, as it said here, if you didn't scam anybody, put somebody down, take bribes behind people's back, if you didn't do anything bad to somebody, the other person can still turn against you. They can choose someone else over you. They can do whatever, and then you would respond the same way. You'll be like, oh man, why this, why that, why all these things? Just be prepared for it, because it could happen to you too. If it could happen to the Lord, it could happen to you. That's one thing I'm thinking about. Uh-oh. Did I lose connection?
My bad,
Oh,
I had
you're
it on
muted.
mute.
Yeah, you were muted. I was like, oh, no,
Okay.
don't tell me I lost connection.
No, you're good. You're good. And then, Dad, is there any other lesson you could take from that portion? For people today, I mean?
People today,
That's different than what Charles said. I mean, another lesson. You heard Charles' lesson, right?
right? I heard Charles' lesson. I would say that, yeah, you have to be careful who you trust or who you entrust to lead or even to follow. People change their minds all the time too.
Good.
But
Be careful who you trust, because you can do everything right by them and they still do wrong by you.
yeah,
Good lesson. I will add one more. Well, maybe a couple more. Another lesson. We don't do the right thing unto other people in the hopes that they do right back to us. We do the right thing because God calls us to do the right thing. If you try to do the right thing because you want people to do right by you, you will be sadly disappointed. Because too often people are selfish, and too often people are out for themselves in the selfishness, and too often people are worried about an image and will choose the wrong thing for the sake of their image or for their selfishness above doing the right thing. So when we do the right thing, we're not doing it for other people's sake, and we're not doing it for our own sake. We're doing it for God's sake. So don't even think about how other people behave and how they treat you. Because if you do, you think you're going to be able to continue doing the right thing while everybody is trashing you or doing wrong by you? Because you might have moments when that happens.
yeah.
You might have moments where it seems the whole world is against you, that everyone is out to get you, that nothing seems to be going well. You still need to do the right thing. And with that being said, we do the right thing also because we are not striving to have our perfect life in this world. Of course, we try our best to get the best we can, but our real effort as Christians and followers of God is to strive for the world to come. That's the thing we're working towards. Why is it that I want to be rich, Dad?
So you can do good.
Exactly. Charles, why is it important that a good people have money?
Good people with money can do better things, good things, better things, without the
Exactly.
deceit and without all the crap, you know.
If it's only evil people and deceitful people with money, then all that's left in ability or power is to be taken over. And keep this in mind, and this is a little part of that lesson, but it's an added note. God told the children of Israel before they got to the promised land that they are allowed to lend money to other people, but they were not allowed to take loans as a reception of the loan from other people, because it would lead, if they were getting money from other people, it would lead to them being under the control of other people. So we see that throughout the Bible, and that's the bottom line of it. We need to make sure that when we're working and doing things, we're working to make ourselves self-sufficient and to take care of each other and God. Because if we're forced to lean on people that are wicked and sinful, we don't have the control necessarily to say no. And a perfect example of that is police officers and other people today in this corrupt government that is so anti-God in every facet almost. They don't have a choice if they're going to feed their family. They have to work in this system because that's where they live. But what if we had a city, or what if we had multiple cities that had police jobs because Christians and people who follow God had money to the point they didn't need to work those cities anymore? Now we give them the option and the choice to be able to work and follow God. We give them the option. But if everyone who has money is wicked, then there is no option. You're stuck in a position. So with that being said, this also goes as this is second lesson of the two that I was going to say, and maybe a third. The second lesson is you need to work to be self-sufficient. No Christian should be working just to pay their bills. And I'm not saying it's a sin to only pay your bills either. I'm talking about should versus should not. What is the right thing and proper thing versus what is a good thing versus not necessarily a bad thing. We don't look for the line of how close to sin we can get. We look to do as much for God as we can. If all you're doing is living paycheck to paycheck, are you able to help out the people of God? Are you able to build up the city of God? Are you able to fund and finance and take care of people in need so that we can live a godly life? No. Now, if you don't have that position of ability, it's understandable. But in the time of God, it was a barter system. There were people fishing. There were people raising cattle. It was an exchange of goods, not just money. And people were able to work things and had a certain level of control. Well, in order to have that control today, you need to work towards being a boss. You can't just think about yourself and be selfish. You have to work towards a future where you're able to be self-sufficient so that you can be selfless. All right. And that's that second lesson in that. We can't just want to treat people right. We have to be financially and everything in a position to do so. We have to work to that. And even if we're not in a position to do some good to help others, like being a boss, there are still things we can do and do right by people. And they can have limitations for our jobs and what we're willing to do. We need to stand firm on truth. And as again, the first portion, we don't do the right thing because of a benefit or because people will do right by us, because they may not. We do the right thing because God is in charge. He's our God, and He has said we are going to do the right thing. So we're doing the right thing out of love, trust, and an understanding of authority of God over our lives, regardless of how people treat us. All right. Now that's the end of section today. So starting tomorrow, we will be in chapter 12 and verse 6. And I will, you know what? I'll go ahead and have Charles, you can pray us out, unless if there's anything anybody else wants to say, go ahead and raise your hand now. Or I'll go ahead and have Charles pray us out. All right. So go ahead, Charles, and pray us out.
All right. Good study, guys. Go ahead and bow your heads. Everyone listening, bow your heads if you can. Father, thank you for putting me in the position and giving me the ability to be part of the study this time. And thank you for making sure that even though I made a couple mistakes, I'm able to still get the context for that. I'm running on fumes. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you're making sure that matters in my life, making sure that I'm properly getting the context and making sure that Brian is still part of the Bible studies and still helping get the context as well. I pray that we all have good days, even Thomas. I pray that Thomas comes back to this and he comes back to our next study and he refreshes himself on what we talked about. And that Thomas has a good day. Anyone listening, I hope all y'all have a good day too. And in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Take care, everybody, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right.